Hey, beautiful people. So, there's something I really would love to share with you, or something that I'm going to read to you all, and it feels really poignant, especially on a day like today. So, I've just got back, not long been back from the Bothy after tending that beautiful, wonderful, magical garden down there. I'd been gifted at the weekend an array of wonderful plants from my dear dad, who had grown them from seed and nurtured them from seed. So we've got some butternut squash, some marrow, some pumpkin, some peppers, some chili peppers, some tomatoes, some cauliflower, a whole array of wonderful plants, really beautiful and healthy plants that he had raised from seed, that I've just placed into the soil. So that was really beautiful. And just before I left, I grabbed ice cold lavender lemonade, homemade lemonade, hopped into the hammock, and was just lying there gazing across that lovely little piece of land, and out across the wilderness pond, the wildlife pond, and looking and thinking to myself, my gosh, that looks as if it has been there forever. It just feels as if it's completely now a part of the landscape, and it does look as if it's been there forever. Yet it was only a year ago last week that it was crafted as a half-term project. And then round the back end of it, there's this willow hedge that we had taken from cuttings from a willow tree that we had to kind of cut back, and then we created all these saplings, and this beautiful tree is also taken from a branch that we had left in water over the winter. And I'm kind of sitting there and I'm looking at all that, and then kind of looking at the hedge, and knowing that tucked behind the hedge is these logs that is full of mushroom spawn, turkey tail mushroom that is just gifted a little while ago, a beautiful flush of mushrooms that I'd learnt how to create into powder, really nourishing, nurturing medicine for the immune system. Incredible. I'm kind of looking at all that and kind of looking at the space around me and thinking, one of the things that I've learned over time from my dear dad, and also his dad, my grandfather, is, when you tend these spaces, that you create this kind of synergy within that environment. You create this synergy within that landscape where everything begins to work together. And that's what I sat there lying in this hammock and looking out across that and thinking, oh my gosh, there's this synergy that has taken place. The willow hedge is next to the pond, so when the pond overflows during the winter time, the willow is really nurtured and fed with water. Willow loves water. And then there is this bog garden that sits on the other side of it. Then that creates this habitat for the logs to go in, that then creates this habitat for the mushrooms to grow. And then you've got all this life that is moving in between the pond, and you've got these insects, and some of those insects take care of the garden. You've got the garden working next to it, and we've got this blackcurrant hedge, and then we've got this willow hedge, and then within that we've got this seating area, and then we've got the hammock. It's like everything kind of begins to have a life of its own. And lying there in a hammock, and very aware that I've always encouraged people, before you leave the garden, hop into the hammock. And there's been times in the seasons gone by where on those beautiful long days that I've been able to have the privilege and the honour to kind of spend the whole day down there and working away, that I've grabbed hold of that ice cold lemonade out the water butt, we put or a watering can, fill it up with water and chill it, and then chuck the bottles in there, grab a bottle, hopped into the hammock, and then drifted off into a sleep, and then woke up a few hours later, early evening, and then just pedaled home. You know, it is the garden. You know, these spaces can gift so much to us in so many ways, and it's like this relationship between us and the garden, these spaces, and kind of working together, and that synergy. You know, you don't become separate from that synergy, you become a part of it, which is beautiful. And it's something, like I say, that, you know, I've seen my dad do time and time again, and my grandfather, seeing that within him, that was passed on to dad, this kind of way of envisioning that landscape where everything starts to kind of work together in harmony and within synergy. And it's something that as I've got older, I've been able to really kind of grab hold of and work with, and now create. You know, looking at that space that has been created, you know, where, you know, for instance, you've got the hammock under the oak tree, and then you've grown these hedges around it, and then you've got this walkway that comes in. You know, that wasn't like that 3 years ago. It's come within time, but it was having the vision to kind of create that space, and then the wildlife pond, knowing exactly where we wanted it because it was a later addition, and then knowing you've got an overflow and a bog garden next to that, that's where you put the willow hedge. You know, it's something that I've seen so natural in my grandfather and my dad, and then as time's gone by, as I've got older, that has taken hold within me, which is a really, really beautiful thing. And it's something that I'm nourishing and nurturing and showing and explaining to our Tristan too. Such gifts. So I'm going to read this to you, okay? I'm going to read this to you. It's like, it was a wonderful post from on Instagram from a lady called Local Rose. Now I will put a link into the video, and I'm going to put the whole post in there as well, so you can read that through, because I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to read what I really feel really deeply resonates as a call to action, as a pathway, as a template, as a blueprint going forward. And she's talking about, you know, the more we see the world shifting towards globalist agendas, that she goes on to say that she realizes that they may only be three choices. Okay, one, to fight; two, to give in. And as I say, I'm gonna put, copy and paste the whole message into the text and description within the video, so you can read that back. But one, to fight; two, to give into the system; or three, this is where you know, light bulbs were going off, and have been for the last few years. Actually, something that I felt was coming over the horizon. You could sense it before you could see it. And this is it. Choice number three: to create my own reality with other like-minded ones who know that the cavalry aren't coming. Those of us who've had to raise ourselves knowing no one will save us. To envision communities of freedom fighters that are living close to the earth by growing their own food, and I want to add medicine, staying off the internet, using it as a tool. I'm going to add to that, using it as a tool, and coming away from those platforms that you are just at odds with. You know, sometimes you're like, yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. Like for me, coming, you know, out of that experience a couple of weeks back, coming through that sweat lodge, and just kind of knowing without any shadow of a doubt that Facebook had to go. So staying off the internet, using it as a tool, bartering, love that, bartering. I know of communities that work together, that everything's done through exchange of skills, resources and services. Bartering, accessing higher dimensional clarity by nurturing the connection to the innate, to the land, to the animals and to humanity. And that is that reciprocal relationship, that relationship where you do craft that synergy, a bit like, you know, in a smaller scale, we're looking at that wild area and looking at the garden, looking at the hedges and looking at the wildlife pond and looking at the willow sapling and the willow branch that I just grab hold of and I put into water butt and left it for over a year, you know, giving it the opportunity to craft, nurture, nourish life. And it did, it shot, and it's now become a tree. I will get a photo and put it on my Instagram in the coming week. You know, it's about kind of cultivating that relationship. Ultimately, what does it mean to be human? Why are some entities trying to erase women, vilify men, succumb to 84 shots? For that's how many are on the schedule for adults and children. And I was listening to mainstream radio actually this morning, and there was this incredible discussion about the importance of, you know, getting our hands into the soil, getting exposure to natural bacteria, natural microbiome, and how important it is to, you know, be exposed to that natural bacteria that lives around us. You know, we've kind of come through the last few years really sterilizing the environment around us, and you know, you used to, you know, sort of being of the generation I am, is, you know, I was, you know, kind of, you know, encouraged to run through the woods and, you know, get your hands dirty, and, you know, whereas we got to a point where we don't always allow children to get their hands dirty. You know, you've got to stay clean and over clean and maybe over sterile. And they're saying how important it is to be exposed to natural bacteria, because their gut bacteria is absolutely destroyed, which is causing a collective, massive collective, rapid, progressive problem with immunity. And we've got to kind of look at the bigger and greater picture. It was incredible, because actually over the last couple of weeks, these things are never by chance, they're by design. Over the last couple of weeks, working with some of my mentors with wild food and foraging, and also coming across a wonderful lady by the name of Brigid. Those things are never by chance. That name seems to follow me through life in a beautiful and amazing and magical way. Who was talking about fermenting food. So originally from Ireland, now living in Sweden, where the summers are very intense but very, very short, that they harvest all of their food from this wonderful, incredible garden project that she leads and nurtures and supports and runs, and they take the harvest and they ferment the whole of the harvest, because that is one way of the food then lasting right into the depths of winter and beyond, but also the real benefits of nourishing our health and immunity into the winter months. And also they have seen, you know, and science is getting there, you know, the amount of probiotics in fermented foods is just mind-blowing. So it's one way of restoring and repairing our health. So you know, I've been learning about that, and I had done some in the past, but I've been relearning about that, remembering about that in the last week. And then blowing me this morning, there is this incredible program talking about the fact that we are destroying natural bacteria that is good for us through over sterilisation. So things to consider. Okay, so you know, when we talk about you know, we talk about sort of coming to 84 shots, for that's how many are on the schedule for adults and children. You know, it's kind of like mind-blowing. One day you won't be able to renew your driver's license unless you have 84 shots. The lady originally wrote this, Local Rose, and I will put the whole post in, says, I suppose I ride a bike, or better a horse. I suppose I'll go back to a harder yet more fulfilling way of life, the way our grittier ancestors lived, when we didn't wait to be saved, but we were our own cavalry. Just beautiful, incredible, wise, potent words. Food literally for thought. And I think, you know, I'm seeing that is that there are communities birthing, born, taking hold, growing stronger and stronger. And I think it's a longing coming from the collective of when spirits say we're in a cycle of return, we're being woven back into the centre, is there are these incredible spaces that are taking hold, where people are sharing their skills, resources and knowledge, and tapping into ways of being that have worked for thousands of years. And I think that going forwards we can weave the best of technology into things that have absolutely worked for hundreds and thousands of years. And after all, this is what this conversation's about, because I'm reaching you from using technology, what I consider, in one of its best ways, which is sharing wisdom and knowledge and experiences and skills. And we're bridging those two worlds in a beautiful way. So I'm going to leave that with you. For those of you that are a part of our Beyond the Hedge community, we've got some exciting things coming up. We have, in the coming weeks, we will have the Midsummer Portal released. And from this video, we're going to have a deeper insight that will be Beyond the Hedge and in the Beltane portal. So until next time, sending you all so much love.